about saying shh. Hey, this is going to be Wednesday, October 4th. You get to listen to kids lose points live. We're going to get into our story called Man from the South. Today was Pink Day. Hopefully people got points. Book report is due today. We're going to turn that in. If you've not voted on Instagram, go to FJH_SC for Student Council, and you can vote for which person gets to kiss the pig at the softball thing next week. Then don't forget to read the story, Hey You Down There. Speaking of people who are down there, you should not be on the floor, you should be up. Then,
Jacob!
Once again, those two stories from there.
You're not a good boy.
With suspense. Our story, Man from the South, is going to have a lot to do with suspense. But first, you have to know what suspense is. What is suspense?
It's okay.
Ian?
It's something that makes something look very important.
I think I got this.
Makes you feel excited about something coming.
That's better. Makes you feel excited about something coming. I can dig that. Cheeky?
It's like you're waiting for something, like it's an urge, like you gotta know what it is.
And so much like when I give you the title of the next chapter and you have no idea, you're like, Mr. Brovicast,
Oh yeah.
that would be suspense, where it just
not
leaves you
fun.
hanging. And so this story has a lot of suspense in it. It just builds and builds and builds until you want to table flip from excitement. In our short story Mountain, suspense builds throughout one part of it the entire time. Which part of the mountain has suspense?
Rising action?
Rising action.
Oh,
It is all suspense the whole way up. This one builds a whole bunch of it. It's also going to introduce this guy who's a man who's from the South. He's a little on the odd side, to say the least. They're going to talk about him wearing a Panama hat, and they're going to talk about him having buckskin shoes. Buckskin shoes are shoes that were all leather, but where he is this sunny place, and it's really hot out, so he pokes holes in them so that way his toes can breathe a bit better. Oh, and they're going to mention a bunch of kids who are naval cadets. Do you guys know naval, not like this naval, but naval as an N-A-V-A-L, what that's referring to?
Boats?
My belly button.
The Navy.
Oh my gosh.
And so they're talking about people who are going to be training for the Navy. Tom.
Was I the person from the date?
Could be. I think you were actually. Let's see.
You were
Why is it
not.
my beautiful?
Tom. That's you.
That's me!
No,
That's not you.
I totally have blonde hair with glasses.
Because that makes
Cheeky.
sense. You look like a great man.
He's a wonderful person. It's an imaginary random person, but
I
sure.
want him to be my
Randy Banana.
He looks like he
Man
put
from the South.
pomegranates.
It was getting on toward, as we get into it, figure out point of view, but more than that, where is it taking place, when's it taking place? And you're going to be sure to pick up clues that are in it.
It's first person.
I'll pay attention.
It was getting on toward 6 o'clock, so I thought I'd buy myself a Coke and go out and sit in the deck chair by the swimming pool and have a little evening sun. I went to the bar, got the Coke, carried it outside, and wandered down the garden toward the pool. It was a fine garden, lawns and beds of azaleas and tall coconut palms, and the wind was blowing strongly through the tops of palm trees, making the leaves hiss and crackle as though they were on fire. I could see the clusters of big brown coconuts hanging down underneath the leaves. There were plenty of deck chairs around the swimming pool. There were white tables and huge, brightly colored umbrellas and sunburned men and women sitting around in swimsuits. In the pool itself, there were 3 or 4 girls and about a dozen boys, all splashing about and making a lot of noise and throwing a large, colorful phone around.
Har. Mr. Brovicast, you're so funny. Wait, no, listen to what he's gonna say.
Guys,
Hello.
Aw.
that was boring. He looks fun.
Okay.
I don't want to have to go to the office.
All on my website,
Oh, not me.
MrBrogack.com.
Okay.
Yep.
What was that, Mr. Brovicast?
He just wanted a break from teaching, so we had
And
somebody
throwing a
come.
large, colorful beach ball at one another. I stood watching them. The girls were English girls from the hotel. The boys I didn't know about, but they sounded American, and I thought they were probably naval cadets who'd come ashore from the U.S. naval training vessel, which had arrived in the harbor that morning. I went over and sat down under a yellow umbrella where there were 4 empty seats, and I poured my drink and settled back comfortably in a nice chair. It was very pleasant sitting there in the sunshine with my Coke. It was pleasant to sit and watch the swimmers splashing about in the green water. The American sailors were, by the way, green water is because where they are is an island and they pump in ocean water, and ocean water is the salt water, and salt water naturally is green. So it's not green because it's icky water, it's just a pool filled with salt water. The American sailors were getting on nicely with the English girls. They'd reached the stage where they were diving under the water and tipping them up by their legs. Just then I noticed a small, oldish man walking briskly around the edge of the pool. He was immaculately dressed in a white suit, and he walked very quickly with little bouncing strides, pushing himself high up onto his toes with each step. He had on a large, creamy Panama hat, and he came bouncing along the side of the pool, looking at the people in the chairs. So his walk as he bounces up, bouncy, 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 as he walks, and he's wearing the hat that looks like that, and he's an older fellow. He stopped beside me. He smiled, showing 2 rows of very small, uneven teeth, slightly tarnished. I smiled back. "Excuse, please, but may I sit here?" "Certainly. Go ahead." He bobbed around to the back of the chair and inspected it for safety, then sat down and crossed his legs. His white buckskin shoes had little holes punched all over them for ventilation. A fine evening. They were all evenings fine here in Jamaica. I couldn't tell if the accent were Italian or Spanish, but I felt fairly sure he was some sort of a South American, and old, too, when you saw him close, probably around 68 or 70. "Yeah, it's wonderful here, isn't it?" "And who?" I might ask her. "These? These is no hotel people." He was pointing at the bathers in the pool. "No, I think they're American sailors," I told him. "They're Americans who are learning to be sailors." "Of course they are Americans. Who else in the world is going to make as much noise as that?" You are not American, no?" "No, I'm not." Suddenly, one of the American cadets was standing in front of us. He was dripping wet from the pool, and one of the English girls was standing there with him. "Are these chairs taken?" he said. "No." "Mind if I sit down?" "Go ahead." "Thanks." He had a towel in his hand, and when he sat down, he unrolled it, produced a pack of cigarettes and a lighter. He offered the lighter to the girl. She refused. Then he offered them to me, and I took one. The little man said, "Thank you, no, but I think I have a cigar." He pulled out a crocodile case and got himself a cigar. Then he produced a knife which had small scissors in it, and he snipped the end off the cigar. The crocodile case he's talking about, because you guys might not be familiar with this when you guys smoke your cigars. It's a case made from crocodile skin, and it's because you don't want your cigars to break in half in your pocket. And so they put them in this case which has like metal or plastic or something. And that way your cigars don't break. And then you can pull them out. And then you have to, once again, I'm sure you guys know this from all your cigar smoking, when you want to smoke your cigar, there's no hole in the end because they wrap the leaves around it. So you have to cut off the end to allow the smoke to go through. I don't want you guys to get embarrassed the next time you're out smoking cigars. People, I mean, it's cheeky.
Why is this little boy smoking?
He's not an old boy. He's an old man.
Oh, I thought you meant, oh.
There's no...
I thought you meant the little boy. Oh.
Yeah, there's no little boy at all. There's an American sailor who's 20, the speaker who's some guy staying at the hotel, and some really old guy. So
Wait, don't forget
no,
about the beach girl.
and the beach girl who just walked up also, who's just sitting there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so no little boy at all.
Okay.
He had a small scissors in it, and he snipped the end off the cigar. "Hey, here, let me give you a light." The American boy held up his lighter. "That will not work in this wind." "Sure it'll work. It always works." The little man removed his unlighted cigar from his mouth, cocked his head on one side, and looked at the boy. "Huh? Always?" he said softly. "Yeah, sure, it never fails. Well, not with me anyway." The little man's head was still cocked over to one side. He was still watching the boy. Well, wait. You say this famous lighter, it never fails. Is that you say?" "Sure, that's right." To pause for a second. The lighter he's talking about is one that came out shortly after World War II. And I went out and bought one so we can use it for the story. It's called a Zippo. Not the one that you guys would normally use when lighting fireworks and trying to blow off your fingers and stuff like that. It works a little bit differently. First period got the joy of watching me fill it because these don't come with lighter fluid on the inside. It has cotton on the inside. You have like a little thing that you have to pop open, and then you go and you squirt lighter fluid on the inside. It has cotton in there and it fills it up. And then you have to put this little screw undoes it, and there's a piece of flint you put in there that makes the spark. You have to build it, put it all back together. But the idea being is that it was made so that once it lights, wind doesn't put it out. So that way you can go ahead when you're wanting to smoke and it's windy outside, you can go ahead and still have your cigarette going the entire time. Really important for those cigarette smokers who are out there. Just having a tough time with that. But with it, once it lights, to put it out, you have to then kill the oxygen by closing the top. That makes it go out. Now, can you blow on it to make it go out? Well, yeah, because that's a lot of... It happens. But that's a lot of wind right there at a really intense spot. Plus, you don't want to blow it out that way because you're going to go spinning all over it and it's not going to light well. But that was one of the things they advertised, was that it would not go out in wind, and the fact that it would light every time you did it. Every time you would pull it, woo, woo. There you go. Well, the problem is, since I don't smoke, I just put a little squirt of lighter fluid in there. I didn't fill it up because I didn't want to waste it, because I only had to use it today and tomorrow for the story. So it's not really full, so the lighter fluid's a little low.
Why don't you?
I can smell it.
All right, back to our story.
In the classroom.
Sure, the boy said. That's right. He was about 19 or 20, with a long, freckled face and a rather sharp, bird-like nose. His chest was not very sunburned, and there were freckles there too, and a few wisps of pale, reddish hair. He was holding the lighter in his right hand, ready to flip the wheel. Yeah, it never fails, he said, smiling now, because he was purposely exaggerating his little boast. I promise you, never fails. One moment, please. The hand that held the cigar came up high, palm outward, as though it were stopping traffic. Now, just one moment. He had a curiously soft, toneless voice, and he kept looking at the boy all the time. Shall we not perhaps make a little bet on that? He smiled at the boy. Shall we not make a little bet on whether your lighter lights? Yeah, sure, I'll bet, the boy said. Why not? You like to bet? Sure, I'll always bet. The man paused and examined his cigar. And I must say, I didn't much like the way he was behaving. It seemed he was already trying to make something out of this and to embarrass the boy. And at the same time, I had the feeling he was relishing a private little secret all his own. Foreshadowing. He looked up again at the boy and said slowly, I like to bet too. Why don't we have a good bet on this thing? A good, big bet. Now wait a minute, the boy said. I can't do that, but I'll bet you $1 or whatever it is over here. Some shillings, I guess? The little man waved his hand again. Listen to me. Now we have some fun. We make a bet. And then we go up to my room here in the hotel where it's no wind, and I bet you cannot light this famous lighter of yours 10 times in a row without missing once. That's what 10 times running means. It doesn't mean like actual running. It means 10 times in a row. So open light, open light, open light. I'll bet I can, the boy said. All right, good. We make a bet. Yes? Sure, I'll bet you $1. No, no. I make you very good bet. I am rich man, and I am sporting man also. Listen to me. Outside the hotel is my car. It's very fine car. American car from your country. Cadillac. Whoa, hey, now wait a minute. The boy leaned back in his deck chair and laughed. I can't put up that sort of property. This is crazy. No, not crazy at all. You strike lighter successfully 10 times running. Cadillac is yours. You like to have this Cadillac? Yes? Sure, I'd like to have a Cadillac. The boy was still grinning. All right, fine. We make a bet. I put up my Cadillac. By the way, that's the time period just after the World War II, about 1950s.
Oh, that's
what
what
the Cadillac
looks like? The Cadillac now is way nicer.
All right, fine. I said, all right, fine. We make a bet, and I put up my Cadillac. All right. What do I put up? The little man carefully removed the red band from his still unlighted cigar. And there we stop.
No. Did you finish like the first page?
We're on the very end of the first page. Hey, look at that. So many kids to charge points.